Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports Podcast. It's Tuesday, July 12th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Quite a productive day for the Royals on Monday. They won 2 games against the Tigers and acquired 3 players from the Braves. On today's show, beat writer Lynn Worthy talks about the day on the field and off, what the Royals gave up in the trade, and what they expect in return. We also discuss trade prospects for Andrew Benintendi, among others, and we take a moment to appreciate the club record consecutive game streak for Whit Merrifield. That one came to an end on Monday. The show started as a SportsBeat Live. Let's get started. Hey, good morning from Kansas City, and welcome to SportsBeat Live, our weekly conversation about the Kansas City Royals with folks who know them best from the Kansas City Star, and with you. Please send us your questions and comments about the Royals. A lot going on with this team the last few days, especially on Monday. We're going to get into that with beat writer Lynn Worthy, whose handsome face you do not see at the moment. Lynn is having some video problems. Fortunately for us, no audio problems. Correct, Lynn?
I hope so.
Okay, you sound great, and glad you're there. Before we get started, I want to send a shout out to our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System, and to let you know that if this show had a theme for today, it would be just the two of us, Lynn. Harken back to Bill Withers and Grover Washington Jr. I could break into song, but I won't. But it's just you and I today. Columnist Vahe Gregorian and Sam McDowell are off today, and so we're going to have to carry the load. And like I said, whole lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. I want to. The day Monday, of course, started with the trade, and we're going to get into that in a big way. But I wanted to talk more about the on-field performances by the Royals in sweeping the Detroit Tigers. If I read the post-game notes right, that was the first time since 2015 that the Royals swept a split doubleheader. First time since 2013 it was against the Tigers. So really good day on the field for the Royals. Game 1, it was all about Brad Keller and Vinny Pasquantino. Game 2, let's start there. Tell us what was unique about the top of the batting order and how they came through.
Well, I'll say this to start. I think I'm more partial to the, I guess it's the Will Smith version of just the two of us. I think that's the one that comes to my mind. That might just be a
it's because you're a kid
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And because I think it was associated with a movie or something like that too. So I think that's probably got something to do with it. But yeah, yesterday's doubleheader. I think it starts with at least in the first game with Brad Keller's pitching performance. I mean, for him to go out, give 7 innings, basically just shut down that Tigers offense for the second straight time, and really for the third time this season. He was dealing, and he gave him length, which was important because of the fact that they had the 2 games. And then became even more important when you get to the second game and Daniel Lynch has another finger problem and doesn't make it through 5. And these aren't the 7-inning doubleheaders from the past. These
Right.
are the full 9. Believe me, I know. And so, it was. But I think to get 2 wins, for them to get, and also with some guys out. I mean, and we didn't mention it yet, but obviously Whit Merrifield's consecutive game streak ended yesterday. So you take Whit out of the lineup, and that second game you had the first 3 batters were rookies: MJ Melendez, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino. So yeah, I think all around for them to get that sweep, it was a good day in multiple ways, and just for them to get a little something going after the back and forth and that the last road trip, it seemed like it was a lot of almost and playing well but not getting wins or getting walked off. So playing well and getting some wins, I think, was important for them right now.
Yeah, that makes it 3 in a row for the Royals. I really like how they responded to that embarrassment on Saturday. The was it 13-1 loss to Cleveland. To come back and win on Sunday against the Guardians and to win that series, I thought showed me something about this team. That's the type of game that could start a tailspin. And in fact, it did just the opposite for the Royals. They're now on a 3-game winning streak and have won 4 out of 5. So just a couple more little notes about what happened on the field Monday. So first time since 1999 that the Royals had 3 rookies go 1, 2, 3 in the batting order. First time ever a catcher led off for the Royals in MJ Melendez, and their performance was tremendous. How about Bobby Wood Jr. with 4 hits, first 4-hit game for him and 3 RBIs. So I just thought it was quite a statement for the youth. And before we move on from the games, how about Vinny Pasquantino with his home run in game 1 came on. It came off the guy who hit the first home run off of, wasn't it? Am I right about that?
Yeah. It was a deja vu type of situation. So his first career major league home run came off of Michael Pineda in Detroit in the 4th inning on a first pitch fastball. So of course, yesterday he decided to hit his second home run off of Michael Pineda in the 4th inning on a first pitch fastball.
So if they come up, when they meet again, and Vinny comes up in the 4th inning, then either he's going to get plunked or he's going to hit a home run, I think is what's going to happen. So, okay, so as good a news as that was for the Royals yesterday, probably not the biggest news of the day. That happened earlier with the trade, and wow, the Royals traded their compensation pick at number 35 overall, with a competitive, not compensation, but competitive balance pick at number 35 overall, to the Atlanta Braves in return for 3 prospects. I guess closest to the major leagues would be the center fielder, Drew Waters, but along with that, the right-handed pitcher, Andrew Hoffman, and infielder, CJ Alexander, all Braves farmhands right now. But let's start with Drew Waters, the 23-year-old center fielder, really tore it up when he got to the Braves when he was a second-round pick in 2017, and there's some things to like about him.
Yeah, he's a true center fielder. I mean, Royals general manager JJ Piccolo, he stopped short of saying that this is their center fielder for the future, but I think there was a strong indication, but that they think that this is the next guy in line to be their center fielder going forward. Obviously, Michael A. Taylor is the Gold Glove winner, who's having one of his best offensive seasons. He's in place now, but this looks like the next guy. As far as a guy who's athletic, they feel like he first center field at Kauffman Stadium, and we know that's been a big thing for this organization going back as far as charge of it. And so they feel like they have that guy. Obviously, there's still some work to do. I mean, for people who think they've traded for him and they're going to plug him in, JJ it sounded like he was giving you the pump the brakes on that because. He's shown some real flashes in the past. I think in Double-A, he was the player of the year one year, but coming out of that pandemic season, he had some speed bumps. So there's still some work to do. It sounds like they really think that with their hitting department and the stuff that they've done the last couple of years, turning guys around, they feel like they can work with him and get him in a good place. And they think he's got power too. So he's got a speed power combination, but they feel like there's still work they need to do with him. So he's not a guy who you just plug right in and give him the everyday job and say, here you go. There's still going to be a little time needed with him.
So they still have another year on the Michael A. Taylor contract, correct? And so maybe he's the heir apparent, but just not the immediate heir apparent.
Yeah, and that's in the story that we posted this morning with JJ's comments, it's interesting because I think there were some people, or at least there's speculation that, maybe this means they trade Taylor because they have the next guy. Or, I mean, I guess that is one way you look at it. You say, okay, well, there's another guy in line, and maybe you just piece it together until this guy is ready, but you know who the next guy is. The other way to look at it is now that you have, a succession line, you have the guy who's ready for when Taylor either, leaves as a free agent, or if you deal him at the next trade deadline because he's going into free agency, then this guy comes and steps in right then. So, I mean, I guess if people, it depends on, how you want to look at it. But either this means it's Michael A. Taylor is in place at least for another year until the next trade deadline, or if you want to believe that makes it easier to trade him now, I tend to think that it's more the former, that this means Taylor's in place for at least the next year, and this is the guy who's going to take over after him after they've had some time to work with him in the minors, get him straight at the plate. And they feel like he's going to be the caliber of center fielder they need. And the other thing about Taylor is if you trade him now, the guys that you put in there, you're going to see a drop off. I mean, as much as, obviously Kyle Isbell is a wonderful defender and makes some great plays, you're going to see a drop off between him and Michael A. Taylor. I also don't think that the Royals believe he's an everyday center fielder. So that's why you need another guy like this. I think that's why one of the things that they were going to be looking at on the trade market was potentially trying to find that center fielder of the future. Edward Olivares is another guy who physically looks like he should be able to be a center fielder, but the plays in the outfield just aren't, for whatever reason, aren't there. And he's a guy who works at it. I remember even last year seeing him out there early work with Rusty. So it's not a guy who's not working at it. It's just for whatever reason the jumps and the routes aren't what you would want from an everyday center fielder. So, but now at least looks like there's a guy who's there who should be the future at that spot. And, even though he sort of hedged that he didn't really want to put this on him, I mean, you heard J.J. Piccolo revoke the name of Lorenzo Cain yesterday. So that's really all you need to know, right?
Exactly. The best center fielder in my time here in Kansas City. So, I wondered if something was going on, though, in terms of the way Michael A. Taylor was used yesterday. Long day for the Royals, the 2 9-inning games. Didn't play in one of them, and I think did he DH in the other one?
Yeah, he DH'd the first game, and it's something that it's going to be interesting to follow up on today because he had the game the other day where he pitched the last 2 innings. So I don't know if it was a being careful thing. Like he said at the time, at least, that he came out of it feeling fine. Obviously, he did play as a DH in the first game, but perhaps it's one of those things where he's dealing with something because it's not like they sat him out completely. But it'll be interesting to see what they do today with the one game, if he's back in there playing center field or if they're giving him more time.
He was throwing gas too, wasn't he, on Saturday?
Yeah, he got up to 93 point something or other. So, I mean, if you round it up, it's 94 miles an hour for a guy who just came out of center field. I think that the one thing we were saying was because they made some substitutions at that point because obviously, the game was out of hand. And we're like, how are you going to have Michael A. Taylor on the mound and have somebody else playing center field? It's like that. How when a fly ball gets hit out there, how is he not going to be like, come on, man?
Exactly. Or maybe he flies off the mound to go get it himself. I mean, he's got that kind of range. So, okay, just something to pay attention to because you're right. I've seen his name pop up in some tweets as potential, trade bait and. I guess the way the Royals have been dealing, with first Carlos Santana and now, the trade for with the Braves, they're in a dealing mode right now, are they not? And before you answer that, I also want to get your thought on, the idea of trading a draft pick is new to baseball. That's just that's a new phenomenon. And what are the Royals giving up with the number 35 overall pick?
Yeah, it's and really there's only certain picks that you can even trade. I mean, like it's not like they could trade that that number 9 pick. Yeah, you couldn't do that if you wanted to. So it's really just a limited number of picks at competitive balance rounds and things like that. And even just a certain number, I believe it's limited as to who can acquire those picks too. So it's really a rare thing to the point where JJ was pretty candid yesterday saying that they weren't really excited about the idea of even trading that pick because it was Atlanta who approached them about acquiring that pick. And the way he made it sound was as though like they weren't really interested in trading that pick. Then they looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, there's some guys that we really like that maybe we could get for this pick. And then the fact that it sounded like the fact that they were able to get 3 players in exchange for the pick is what made it happen. Because at one point he said, yeah, I candidly did not think that this deal would happen. So, and I think I took that to mean as he talked about, the fact that they talked through it and they had a couple of guys they really wanted. And the fact that they could get a third guy really made a difference. I took that to mean that they pressed to get 3 guys, and that's what made this thing happen. But yeah, I mean, you think about where that pick falls. I mean, if you just go back a few years, I mean, like in that 30 to 40 range is where you saw guys like, and I don't remember the exact pick numbers, but I mean, that's where you saw like the Bubiches, the Kowars, the Lynches come off the board in 2018, just for an example. Like those are, these aren't, high first round picks, but these are first round picks, basically. These are first round picks. These are guys that, you expect to get high caliber pitchers or high caliber players at that spot, guys who, you're going to be counting on as your future. These aren't, late round picks where you're taking flyers on guys. And also, as far as the draft pool, that's about $2.2 million that Atlanta gets to add to their draft pool and that the Royals will take away. And that's, as far as, I mean, that's a slot value, but that's also some maneuvering you can do. Like in past years, you go back to, what was it, the Hunter Dozier draft. He was picked as their top pick, but he signed for under slot because they used some of that slot value to be able to pay more to Sean Manaea at the time. So that's also part of what's, that's part of the calculations there with that slot value, with that pick, taking it out of the equation, adding it to the equation for Atlanta, and the types of players that you might be able to find at that spot.
Very good. Okay, hey, let's take a break here and hear from the University of Kansas Health System.
March 4th, 2015, I got out of the shower and felt a lump in my left breast.
We were able to quickly uncover that she had 2 subtypes of breast cancer, each of them requiring separate and unique treatment plans. This is why you come to the University of Kansas Cancer Center.
It is critical to be treated by a team of experts in that specific cancer type. If you don't start with us, I think you'll have more questions than answers.
Why would you go anywhere else?
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening.
We're back on SportsBeat KC talking Royals with beat writer Lynn Worthy, our other esteemed colleague Sam McDowell. Vahe Gregorian not here today, but all right, Lynn, let's switch gears a little bit and talk. Obviously the trade was big news on Monday, and I guess we can transition into another possible deal, and that is Andrew Benintendi. I thought when we kind of set up today's show that you might have to scoot off at some point and report about a trade. We're just getting into that time of year, and so far so good. 20 minutes in, no trade yet for the Royals, at least that we know of. And is Andrew Benintendi the next the one to keep an eye on for Royals fans?
He would seem to be the most likely. I'm not sure that it's going to happen sooner as opposed to coming down to the deadline. That's just my sense, or, I guess really more of a guess, just because I feel like they're going to want to try to extract the most possible out of that deal, and maybe waiting until the deadline applies pressure to some teams. You get to that deadlines always make things happen. And the way JJ Picollo was talking yesterday sounded like a guy who was doing a little bit of posturing to me. I also feel like there's truth to it. I don't think it was entirely bluster, because I do believe that from Dayton Moore through JJ that there is a sense that they don't want to feel like they have to make something happen. They have to make a deal. I think that is true, that they're not going to go into this deadline saying we've got to move them and get something for them, or else we're screwed. But at the same time, I think I find it hard to believe that they're not going to reach some sort of a deal, try and maximize the return on Benintendi. And when I say I don't think I think it was some posturing. JJ's comment yesterday was along the lines of, we don't feel the pressure to have to get something done or to have to move any of our players. And that, they know what the interest is from other teams. And it comes down to basically how interested those other teams are, or how willing those other teams are, motivated to make a deal. So that's exactly what you would expect for an executive to say if he wants to, try and press other teams to say, give us your best offer. Those offers you've given are not good enough. We don't have to move them. It's basically the way I look at that is, they want to. They feel like with Benintendi, a guy who's an all-star, a guy who's on an expiring contract, so you have flexibility if you're a team acquiring him. Gold Glove defender, left-handed hitter, a guy who's amongst the league leaders in hits, batting average, on base percentage. You don't just give that away and get something that's an everyday run-of-the-mill type of prospect. You want to get a return on that.
Absolutely, and you're right. He's you asked him the other day when speaking to him after it was announced he was going to be the Royals All-Star representative. If the changes that he's made in his swing, particular, are have paid off, and he absolutely said absolutely it has, and it's been fun to see. He's been the most consistent player. Every team has to have an all-star representative, and so even if the Royals didn't have a player with Benintendi's numbers, they would have had a player on the all-star team. But he absolutely deserves his spot on this year's American League team. And I was just thinking, I hope they don't trade him in the next few days, because I want him. Then the Royals won't have anybody in an all-star uniform for the game next Tuesday. So
it was funny too. You mentioned that clip because I posted that answer to my question about his swing change in a little Twitter clip, and there's a lot of responses that I saw that people were talking about. Oh, we need to get this guy. People, fans of other teams, talking about, we need to get this guy for our team. And I'm thinking to myself, that the answer to that question was not the reason that you needed to get him. I think there was plenty of reasons that you might have wanted to get him, but it wasn't the answer to that question that put you over the top. Because if you needed somebody and you were trying to figure out who you should get, if hearing that response was which made you decide, that's the one to get, I think you were a little late on the uptick there.
Well, you keep seeing the Yankees, and one of the latest teams that I've seen would be interested in Benintendi is the Blue Jays, just because they're such a right-hand hitting oriented lineup, and he would fit really well into the lineup in Toronto, and I believe the Royals are up there this week. Don't they spend the weekend in Toronto?
Yeah, they start a series there on Thursday, so yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be interesting. And he's got to be one of the more coveted guys as far as somebody that people can acquire at the trade deadline. And it makes sense for the Royals because he's a free agent at the end of the season. It seemed like, going back to spring training, that it was pretty clear that, there hadn't really been any talks about an extension, that he was going to get to free agency. And then putting up an all-star season, as famously has been said by a former colleague of yours, the contract year is undefeated.
It is absolutely undefeated. That doesn't just not only in the NFL but other sports as well. So let's begin to wind it down and spend a moment talking about Whit Merrifield. The end of the streak has arrived, and Whit Merrifield played in a club record 553 consecutive games. And one of the things I really like about him is he's a pretty honest evaluator of himself. And when things aren't going well, he'll tell you that. And I like the response he gave you, Lynn, about, as if you wouldn't have written it. He made sure that it got out there that playing 553 straight games is difficult for anybody under any circumstance, but doing it in this part of the country, with weather conditions, makes it even a bigger challenge. What can we say about Whit Merrifield's Ironman streak?
Yeah, and that the weather thing was also something that Tigers manager AJ Hinch mentioned when I asked him just about, the Whit Merrifield not being in the lineup that day and the longest active streak in baseball ending, and he talked about how he felt for him because he's you want us to have the best players in the game on the field. He's like, that's just good for Major League Baseball. He's like, and he said when you come to Kansas City, you expect to have Whit Merrifield in the lineup, batting leadoff and playing some position and playing it well. And I think that's the other part of what Whit was saying too, was not just that, playing in Kansas City with the heat and the humidity and everything else, but playing multiple positions. Like he's not a guy who's just a DH who's in the lineup every day or first baseman who's in the lineup every day. He could have been at one of, I think, probably 7 different positions on the diamond, depending on the day. Is going to be stealing bases. Is going to be, he's not going to be out there just sort of cruising. So that, and just the fact that he's done it for so long. I mean, like it's just crazy to think about. Like I was going through the roster and just trying to find out like how many guys on this roster have actually played regular season games that did not include Whit Merrifield before yesterday. And I came down to I think it was Greinke and Salvi and even Cam, I think, because Cam came up the same year as Whit, and so I was like, well, it's possible that he played some games without Whit in the lineup. But I went back to the game by game of the game logs from that 2017 season where they both came up, and it looked when I looked through it, it's like every game that Cam played was with Whit in the lineup, and then even 2018 before Whit's streak started, he played games. And all those games Whit was in the lineup. So there's really 2 guys, I believe, on that roster who played regular season games for the Royals that did not have Whit Merrifield in the lineup. And then obviously guys who came up after that all played, every game they've played, Whit's been in the lineup with them. So it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's an amazing streak, and I should note that it's a toe injury that's keeping him out. And if anybody who's ever had a toe injury knows how painful those can be. It's a combination of things, isn't it, Lynn? It's not just one thing on his foot. It's a couple things.
Yeah, as he described it, there was a bone bruise and also there was ligament swelling. So, and it's on that right foot. And as he put it, at least, it was the fact that it was that foot is what made it an issue for him to be able to play, because it was going to affect his swing. He wasn't going to be able to put weight on that. It wasn't going to be able to push off of that to in his swing, and he felt like he was going to be compromised at the plate. And he wasn't going to have as much power. He wasn't going to be able to put as good swings on the ball. And then also he thought in the long run it might create bad habits at the plate. And we saw this season. People obviously remember the first part of the season when he was struggling, and I think we played the video on here of him answering me about how he was still having good at bats, and he could go through basically at bat by at bat where he was still putting good swings on, he was still hitting the ball hard, how he got robbed on some plays in the field, but the average just wasn't there. And since then, the last 58 games, he's been slashing like almost 290, 340, and over like 420 or something like that. 5 home runs, 30 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. So the last, almost 60 games, he's been more the Whit that we remember. It's just the overall numbers this year took a nosedive early. And I think that's part of the thinking too, is, he got himself back on track, the last 2 months to play through this injury that's going to, just tank. Makes sense.
Well, the spirit of Whit Merrifield was in the lineup yesterday as the Royals won both games from the Tigers. They look to keep it going tonight and against the Tigers. It's a 4-game set, and as Lynn said, they go to Toronto after this. Lynn, great information. Really loved having you today, and we'll do it again soon. Thanks to Monty Davis for producing today's show, and to our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System. Until next time, take care.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to Monty Davis for producing the podcast and the live stream. And thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Morning Sports Edition brings you all the coverage of the Royals, Major League Baseball, and much, much more. Go to liveedition.kansascity.com for more information. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC.